Thank you, Ruth. So normally I would just get the microphone and stand and start talking, but there's some things that I really, really want to say today. So I am probably going to read quite a bit more than I normally would do. So as Ruth has said, I'm Claire Eddleston and I'm from Positive Life Workshops Community Interest Company. I work for the mental health services on the inpatient wards as an activities team and a healthcare assistant for 19 years. Now, I tried when I was in the NHS to start to bring in some changes after my own experience of being on the actual wards, and it was really, really difficult. So I've set up my own community interest company, and I'm kind of doing things from the outside as much as I can, like doing these events and things like that. So I'm standing here with pretty resilient mental health, but it's 12 years after my own experience. And I made some really big life changes to get to this point. I came off all my medications, including the painkillers. But the most important thing that I started to do was more of the things that I loved to do. Okay? So I stopped living my life for everyone around me and started to do things for myself. And I realised that my children needed me to show them how to be happy, not for me to try and make them happy. They needed me to set a good example. What did I do for myself to make myself happy? And they can say, well, I need to do this to make myself happy. Okay. So I think we all feel hopeless at some points. We've had some really great speakers on this morning. And I just want to thank David, because I think sometimes the first time you talk about your own lived experience, it's really, really difficult. It's terrifying. I've been doing this now for 5 years. I've got a podcast. I've told everybody my story inside and out. I'm not going to go into too much details today, but I just kind of want to say, I think most people feel hopeless, and I think a lot of those feelings can often be traced back to some point in our childhood. So as a result of some sort of trauma that's happened, okay, then we have additional traumas on top of that, and then a few more traumas added onto that, and then a bit more trauma, and none of that gets released. And because we're telling children to be quiet about trauma, it kind of gets pushed inside. And then as they get older, they start to struggle with things. So we might not see these things as a trauma now, but because they've got so many layers of trauma already built up from childhood, it is a trauma to them, and that is why they're self-harming and feeling suicidal, because they've got all this inside of them. Okay, so I think the key moments to think about was giving children the chance to talk early on, as early as possible. Okay, and at the same time, we need to let the children know that it's okay to be themselves, and it's okay to do things that make them happy, and teach them about building their own resilience really early on. Okay, so to get myself to this point, I've done a lot of self-discovery work through my own art, and I've asked myself questions. Now, when I was admitted to the wards, the activities were what helped me most, and the medication just kind of numbed what was going on. But no one really asked me any questions. No one asked me what needed to change in my life. So we're talking about all these stats, we're talking about the reviews and things like that. If I'd have actually completed suicide, there's no way on earth that I would have been included in any of that, because I didn't tell anybody. Even though I was on the ward and I was admitted and I was under the teams, I didn't tell anybody. No one actually asked me, so I'm not going to tell people because I was stigmatised. What are my parents going to think of me if I want to separate from my husband and I've got children? My parents are like born-again Christians, and I'd already kind of almost got married and then decided to change my mind. So there was already kind of things that I'd gone on, so I didn't want to tell them about it. It's not something I wanted them to know. And I've probably not actually really verbalised it to them now, even though they know because of the work that I'm doing. I've still not properly kind of fully talked about it, but I think that's also something that I wanted to talk about, because sometimes when we're asking people to talk about these things that have happened in the past, we're re-traumatising them. We're asking them to remember all the bad things. Now, sometimes people will need to talk about it, but if you're going counselling and you're waiting 6 weeks for that counselling appointment, that's 6 extra weeks of having that thing going around your head. If we can get someone to talk straight away, as soon as they need help, and it's released from them, that trauma might not build up. So it's about getting the kids, teaching the kids how to talk, that it's not selfish to look after themselves. Because if someone had said all these things to me before, I might not have got to that point. If someone had asked me the questions when I was younger, is there anything going on that you need to talk about, then perhaps we wouldn't be at this point right now. Okay, so I don't know, am I nearly about time? I'm fine, I've got loads of time. I was going to say, I'm nearly about time, so I'm really regretting not bringing my big drum. So I have a big drum, and I do meditation and sound healing and things like that. Now, we're all talking about suicide prevention. We've had some really good talks. Let's be honest, we all have good days and bad days. Every single one of us. It's about us looking after ourselves as well. So it would be nice, next time we do this, I'm not sure who 100% set it up, but it'd be nice if we could have just a bit of well-being activities, because if we're wanting to prevent suicides, we've got to look after ourselves as well. So important. So, yeah, I've missed a whole bit out here, let's go back to it. Okay, so when we start looking what we want to do, instead of focusing on what we don't want to do, it allows things to change. So I've just researched with Liverpool John Moores University how virtual reality gaming and my own resilience programme can improve mental health. Now that's coming from because virtual reality gaming saved my other half's life. Literally saved his life. In lockdown, he was nearly one of them stats. He nearly jumped off a bridge. I ran after him. Luckily, when we got back off holiday, he got a VR headset. And he started talking to people online, he started gaming, he started communicating with people. So I was like, oh, hang on a minute. So with the Better Mental Health Fund, we actually researched that for 12 months. But it's so difficult as a community interest company to try and say, like, we've got this programme that makes a difference. How do we get it to people? So we're talking about making changes. More of the same is not going to work. I'm so sorry. It's just not. What we're doing at the minute is more or less re-traumatising people, making them wait and wait and wait, making them tell the stories over and over and over. People know my stories, but I never ask anybody what's happened. I will ask them, what can we do about it? Where can we go now? What's the future holding? Because the future is a good thing to focus on, because a lot of us don't actually know what we love and what we enjoy. And that's so important. That was one of the biggest things that I got from doing my own self-discovery work, learning what I enjoyed, knowing what I love. And now I'm doing the VR gaming, and we're doing research in that, and we're looking at creating a dementia app. We're looking at using different technology to kind of bridge the gaps that I've seen from working on the wards and from kind of working in innovation and mental health and things like that. And I've even set up a pottery painting and ceramic studio, because that's what I love to do. And I can't do the mental health and resilience stuff if I'm not doing the things that I love. Okay, so that's just kind of what I want to leave you with at the minute. What are you doing that you love? Because if we can start focusing on ourselves first, and we can get the kids to start focusing on themselves first, it really does start right at the beginning. You've got to ask the questions early on. As soon as they get into senior school, start asking those questions. Is there anything going on that you want to talk about? Because if someone had said that to me, I might have said, yeah, this happened, and I've got it going around my head, and I can't get rid of it, because that is the thing that made me eventually suicidal, as well as all the other impacting things. So I will leave you there. I think I've got my 2 minutes over now, so thank you very much.